Hi, I'm Richard Vague with Tychos. Given that the world's focus is on the escalating conflict between Israel and Palestine, we will touch this week on the economies of the Middle East. I join many others in condemning Hamas's terrorist assaults on Israel and their violent atrocities against civilians, and in standing emphatically against anti-Semitism. The purpose of this video, however, is not to articulate any position relative to the war, but instead to give you a glimpse at the macroeconomic data so that you will be able to better understand events and the information you receive. Let's start with a quick look at the GDPs of the countries of the Middle East as well as Turkey. We'll focus briefly on 5 of these countries: Israel, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Iran, since they each have a particularly prominent place in unfolding events. To give you some context, the GDP of the United States in 2022 was $25.7 trillion. Now, of this group, it is well known that Palestine is one of the poorest countries in the world and ranks at the very bottom, at a very small $19 billion annually. If we were to look at Gaza alone, which is a very small and separate part of Palestine, totaling only 6% of that small country's geographical size, its GDP is only $3.2 billion annually. Saudi Arabia's economy is the strongest and largest here because of its unmatched oil resources and huge net export position. Iran is a mixed bag as it has favorable oil exports, but has regularly been at odds with the Western trading world due to its perceived support of terrorists, including Hamas and Gaza. And it has suffered ongoing economic boycotts and very high ongoing inflation, reaching nearly 50% in 3 of the last 5 years. Israel has attained a strong economy without the benefit of oil or natural gas resources, and it too has a strong and favorable net export position. Egypt has a large economy, but in stark contrast to Saudi Arabia and Israel, and to a lesser extent Iran, imports far more than it exports and has suffered its own high inflation of 20+% as a result. Let's look at just 2 more things: the real GDP growth of Israel, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Egypt over the last 20 years, where you can see Egypt and Israel's growth lead the group. Let's also look at per capita income, the all-important statistic, of all 5 of these over the last 20 years, adjusting for purchasing power. You can see the great disparity among these countries that are very close geographically. Saudi Arabia and Israel lead this group by quite a bit, with Iran, Egypt, and Palestine well behind. Hopefully this gives you some context for the many stories coming out of the Israel-Palestine conflict. That's it for this week. Thanks.